Hi everyone, we are back live. I hope you have enjoyed the session so far. Uh, Sheena's session, we're very sorry for a little bit of a technical glitch in between, but I hope you enjoyed what she had to present, and of course, then Bob and Milton and Kelly. So I'll try to keep it within about 30 minutes. At Netflix, here again, I'll just quickly go through the intro slides with you, but this is what I was planning to cover during my presentation. We have been doing an ongoing research since the 9th of Feb, uh, really trying to understand the impact of COVID-19 on the retail trends, so basically retail sales as well as the online shopper behavior. So I should be able to share quite some insight from there. And then based on that, we have really been able to build some predictions for a very unpredictable holiday season. It feels like, as Bob mentioned, a very unpredictable holiday season. So predictions there should always be taken with a little bit of a caution, but I sort of mentioned them as well. And finally, I have a couple of slides on how exactly Netflix can help. Already, Mark has shared with you, we are privileged that Google and Microsoft have offered to really partner with us, and we are offering some complimentary consultation sessions. But let me dive into Netflix. So as I had presented in the morning as well, we are essentially a growth enabler for e-commerce businesses. We specialize in digital marketing, everything from website development all the way to paid search, paid social, search engine optimization, social media, etc. We are very privileged, and I'm very excited to have many UPSers and UPS customers join us today for this conference. Thank you, guys. Thanks. We really sort of value and cherish this partnership we have with UPS. We are a Google Premier partner, a Bing Select partner. We just sort of saw their presentations as well, and we are a Facebook marketing partner. And we have a lot of our customers who are joining us today. Hello again to everyone. We primarily specialize in the retail e-commerce industry, but as I had mentioned in the morning or in the afternoon session, we also have quite a few customers from B2B e-commerce, from CPG e-commerce, but e-commerce is the area of specialization for us at Netflix. I wanted to explain very quickly about the research, but before starting on the research, this has been my custom slide. I think it's very important for us to really take this with a tremendous amount of humility and understand that we are still pretty much in midst of probably the most crazy human tragedy we have had in the last 100 years. And with lives at risk, we really hope that the conditions really improve quickly. The outbreak, as we have all seen, is tremendously impacting the global economy, and everything really has been quite off the whack for the last about 5 months. So what we try to do at Netflix is we try to understand what actually is the impact by actually tracking end online sales across categories. And that's what essentially our research was on. We have now a little over 5 months of data based on which I'll be sharing some of the insight that we have been able to get. The data is fairly updated. It's as of August 8th, 2020, and I really have to give a big shout out to my research team at Netflix, who really has been instrumental in helping me pull this data along with using our technology platform, Alexa Insights. So moving on, before I go into the data and the overview, I think it's important for us to understand the concept of this, what Bain and Company calls it, the elements of value. I think all of us are very familiar with the Maslow's hierarchy, right? These are typically the consumer needs. Some of them are functional needs, that the product, you buy a product because it saves time, or probably it organizes, it probably has a strong aesthetic design appeal, it probably has a motivational impact, it probably helps you with self-transcendence. So effectively, as we are seeing, the pandemic has such a huge force in almost changing the shape of this pyramid. And as a result of which, some of the values or some of the elements really have become a lot more important compared to the other elements. And as I think sort of Bob mentioned in his presentation, and I think Kelly and Milton also emphasized that, safety has become one of those values which have really become exceptionally important. So when you talk about safety, it is basically safety whether you are buying from a retailer, or you are probably the unboxing experience when you are sort of getting something delivered to your home, or probably you are going to a restaurant to eat something versus sort of doing a takeout. I think safety is everywhere pretty much, and we don't think that this value will be or this element of value would be equally important over at least the next foreseeable future. So it's very important for businesses to understand what are those unique values which have assumed a higher importance. Now, a good way of really visualizing this pyramid is just look at those circles that are there. All these, each circle is an element of value. Now, if the circle size suddenly doubles or triples or grows 10 times, understandably, the pyramid would get a little different in terms of shape. So think from that perspective and just ask a fundamental question: which value is most likely to impact your business? We are very fortunate to work with a wide range of businesses, and some of the questions which they keep asking us. Uh, the first one is: will this outbreak really lead to permanent shifts in consumer behavior? I mean, there was this fantastic study done by a research associate in Oxford. I think it was about 10 years back, 2009 study, which said that it takes about 66 days of continued doing the same thing to form a habit. So now we are well beyond 66 days. In fact, today is exactly the 5-month period that we have been in remote operations at Netflix. Right. So I'm pretty sure there are a lot of habits which have really got built in. Just think of it, every time you really use the hand sanitizer, right? It probably will become a habit now. The second question is, will the new customers continue to shop with us after the pandemic over? That's, I think, is a fundamental question. We are getting a lot of new customers, but will they continue with us after the pandemic is over? The third is purely from marketing perspective. Since we are working, as I mentioned again, with a wide range and wide category of verticals, we keep on getting this question: how do we really calculate the return on marketing investment? Because these new customers are completely different in terms of their consumer behavior compared to previous customers that probably were there. And how do we calculate as a result of with the lifetime value of the customer? And last but not the least, which I think which is pretty much at top of everyone's mind, how do we actually prepare for this holiday season when there is so much uncertainty? So those are some of the questions that we typically are known for being fanatically analytical and reflexive, and we will sort of try to use data to answer and address some of these questions. So the research that we had done, it was done in 14-day chunks. So we started, as I mentioned, on the 9th of Feb, and the most recent one was up till 8th of August. And we have about 14 different periods. So 14 chunks of 15 up to 2 weeks each. And we compared the daily data 2020 to 2019 over these 14 time periods, and we considered 7 retail categories. We started, many of you have been joining our webinars. We have so far done about 7 webinars so far. You can access all of these webinars on the Netflix site. And the categories that we sort of considered were apparel, home decor, tools and hardware, food, gifting, pet supplies, and home furnishings. And we aggregated all this information because we have our own platform which really helped us to capture all these live data called Alexa Insights. So let me start with the impact it has had, the COVID has had on e-commerce sales and online shopper behavior. So this is the table. Again, there is a lot of data out here. Don't bother too much getting into each one of them. But there is a very clear and perceptible increase in online sales across categories. Different categories have obviously behave differently. As you can see, for example, the apparel category went through a pretty slow patch till the time the stimulus checks were sort of received by the people, which was around, if you remember, around the 13th or 14th of April is when people started getting the stimulus checks. And since then, as you can see, the 4/19 onwards, the apparel category started showing a year-on-year increase. Now, I have been asked the question, the apparel is a pretty generic and a big category. We are primarily in this case focusing on women's apparel, and we have tried to exclude any professional or office wear from this one. So other than office wear, it's women's apparel, everything included, combined. The other categories, we are seeing a massive surge in categories like home furnishings, home decor has had a very healthy run. Pet supplies has been very consistent. As you can really look at, pet supplies has been consistently around above 25 or 30% throughout. Hardware and tools, we are seeing a massive surge in specifically the DIY tools and so on. So that continues. Gifting has been definitely a shining category, as we tend to say, because again, there is a tremendous amount of gift transaction, which is exchange, which is essentially happening as well. So overall, I think across categories, the online sales have been growing at an explosive pace. Now, this was a graphic which came out in, I believe, in the month of May from eMarketer, where they said that 7.4 million new digital buyers will be added in 2020. 7.4 million new digital buyers is a lot of new customers sort of coming in, right? So I think when we really try to do that, we also conducted a primary research. We surveyed about 1,000 respondents in the month of July, specifically from the Northeast, because that's where I think the COVID impact was the maximum, specifically in the months of, let us say, April and May. And we tried to understand effectively as to how their overall behavior shifted on the shopping online. Now, there were two key things which came out. The first one was we saw a lot of new to online shoppers. As you can see, yes, I am first time online shopper was 4.1%. Now, that may seem as a percentage to be a low number, but believe me, when you really extrapolate it with this 1,000 to probably about 300 million people, then suddenly it assumes a substantial new overall population segment which is really getting created. Within that specifically, we are seeing a surprising increase, specifically in the 55 plus age group. We are also seeing a surprising increase specifically in the frequency of usage as well. Not just the first time purchase, but also the frequency of purchase, the number of purchases. Which leads us to the first conception, which is a very powerful concept of the theme I really wanted to share, that once you are able to get a new customer to really pass or cross essentially that mental barrier that, oh gosh, can I really shop online? Once that barrier is broken, after that, we are seeing very clearly consistent frequency. And the COVID really has been able to drive that shift. So we have a very firm belief that many of these customers will continue to shop online. It may not be 100% of their purchases would be online, but a substantial chunk of their purchases would continue to be online. So online sales growth, some of the stats that I wanted to share with all of you. The percentage contribution by new shoppers has increased. I mean, this is across categories. It went up from 37% in 2019 to 41.2%, about a 4.2% shift here and there. The new online shoppers have been purchasing faster, so much quicker. So once you have been able to cross that threshold, then the speed of purchase becomes very quick. And they have been purchasing more frequently as well. So once the first purchase has been made, the second purchase happens very quickly also. So the frequency of purchases has really increased. And finally, we have seen that the online shoppers have been spending more per purchase as well. So all of these stats really got compounded, and it has been almost like a multiplicative effect, which really has led to a substantial growth in the overall online sales. Some of the observations as well as predictions, and again, I know it's very difficult to make predictions in such an uncertain, unpredictable sort of a year or times. But some of the things which we feel fairly confident of based on the data that we have seen over the last 5 months. The first one, we have seen a massive shift happen in the contribution of mobile sales. So all the sales which are happening from mobile devices, that has shifted across categories from an average of 48% to 59%. We believe this can actually be a permanent shift, right? Whether 59% will be 59% or 61% or 55%, but it will definitely be higher than what it was, at least by a 4 percentage points. So it would definitely not be lower than 52%. It probably will not be higher than 65%, but I think that is the range. There is a very clear shift towards mobile. The second one was very interesting. We saw that the online shopping day parts, Milton talked about the different day parts and the day parting specific part. We saw that the online shopping day parts, the top day parts have changed for all categories. Since people are spending a lot of time at home, they are shopping at times which they were not shopping earlier. Earlier, there was a very clear skew towards a lot of shopping after 6 p.m. once they are back from office and so on. Specifically after 9 p.m. to midnight used to be a big day part. Now that is still important, but it is spread across. It's fairly spread evenly. If you really take the purchases that they were making between 9 a.m., let us say, and 6 p.m. earlier, that gets spread very evenly through the day. The third, which is a very important trend, I believe, and I'm pretty sure there would be, this is one of the things that we feel very confident of even presenting in this conference, is gifting has emerged as a very important trend. We have been overwhelmed to see the amount of the compassionate outpourings and people giving out gifts, and gifting has really become a lot more popular, specifically in the 18 to 24 and 25 to 34 age groups. And there is a very clear, conscious attempt at regularized gifting practices, very specifically to the age groups of 55 plus. We believe that this will have a substantial impact during the holidays. We also believe that there may be a possibility of new gift categories and products to emerge as well. Something to keep in mind. New gift categories can emerge. One of the ways of that we are sort of trying to look at this entire proposition from a retail perspective was the unboxing experiences have really changed during the pandemic. For example, at least the last few months, whenever we get some shipment to our house, my sort of wife goes out and for the first few hours we don't even touch the box; it's just sort of lying outside there, right? And then we really go ahead and just try to sanitize it as much as possible. We sort of use the bleach and so on, and then finally we unbox and get the stuff inside. Now, I think this has been such a fundamental shift in as to how we really are doing the unboxing. There may be an opportunity. There may be an opportunity which may arise very specifically for retailers to really be creative on the unboxing experiences, which really conveys safety or communicates safety to your customer. And those are, I think, some of the trends. So based on whatever we are seeing now, we feel fairly confident that the e-commerce sales growth for at least the remainder of 2020 would continue to be 30% plus year on year. Now, how much incremental revenue? This has been a question which has been asked multiple times, and honestly speaking, no one has a crystal ball. We are just using as to the data that we have, the trends that we are seeing. Again, we are able to access the real-time trends thanks to Alexa Insights. In terms of latency, the new behavior, the frequency of purchase, multiple variables. We feel fairly confident, and this we are using the overall US e-commerce sales as a basis. I know we have many international attendees joining us today, but I think this data is very specific to the US, United States. Q4 2020 versus 2019, based on the current trends, and we are utilizing the government retail report, which comes out on the mid of every month, which will be out on the 15th or the 16th of this month as well for the previous month. We believe in this quarter, there is a possibility of $50 to $80 billion incremental online sales to get added in compared to 2019. So if 2019 was X, think of it X plus $50 billion to X plus $80 billion added in. So it's a massive opportunity. I think everyone that you may have heard from Google as well as Microsoft have very specifically mentioned that there is a massive opportunity. We are all expecting a substantial increase in demand. I mean, I have even used the word gold rush because understandably when such a huge amount of incremental sort of a overall shopping happens online, understandably there is a massive opportunity which opens up for a lot of businesses. So that's the opportunity which is out there based on some of the models that we have run based on the data that we have. If those of you who are interested in writing, so we have created this ebook. It's about 25 30 pages long, so it has all the different questions. How did people respond? The third one was we were fortunate enough to invite a lot of our retail industry friends to speak and give their comments and projections and their advice. So we have a section only on the retail industry leaders' advice and thoughts. And finally, we also invited quite a few world-class thinkers from the academic world. For example, we had Professor Jerry Wind and Professor George Day joining from Wharton. We had Professor Anindya Ghosh from NYU Stern. So it's something that you may really want to read and even share within the team. I would highly recommend that because this holiday season, as we have been talking about through this entire conference, is all about connecting the dots. So the most pieces of information, the more you are able to connect, the better you are placed in creating a strong and a bulletproof holiday plan. So moving on to 2020 holidays, we have all talked about $50 to $80 billion. What else? So what makes this season unpredictable? I'll sort of quickly go through it. I think that nothing new here. I think the ongoing pandemic and its impact on everything. I mean, it's the pandemic is still there, and unfortunately, it still is very concerning in its impact. We are seeing that retail sales are rapidly moving online. Again, we have discussed this. We are expecting at least 25%, if not more, of Q4 total retail sales of the US happen online, if not more. The holiday in-store sales are really expected to be lower than last year just because the foot traffic, despite the increase, as Bob mentioned, that there has been an increase in the foot traffic, but still it's expected to be a lot lower compared to last year. So as a result of which, a lot of brick and mortar businesses are trying to ramp up their online capabilities and really sort of have an online presence and scale up their online presence. And that's going to intensify over these next couple of months. The manufacturing disruptions, I am speaking constantly to our customers. And one of the things that many of our retail industry leaders have mentioned is there are a lot of manufacturing disruptions which are leading to product shortages. We may be surprised to see empty shelves during holiday season. I hope not, but that's a possibility. The unpredictability of the pandemic holiday shopper behavior, right? Because holiday shopper behavior, as I think we have discussed earlier as well during the Microsoft and the Google presentation, I mean, they're conditioned to behaving differently. Earlier, what you were expecting to get, maybe when you ordered something, you expected that within about 2 days or maximum 3 days, you sort of get that delivered. But now, when you are ordering for something, there is a possibility that it may not really be delivered in the next 14 days. And the interesting part, and that's where the habit formation component becomes important, customers actually know that. So as a result of it, they're going to be sort of utilizing that and sort of bringing that forward. So safety is going to be a very important value. And last part, obviously, the election year impact would be quite substantial on the holiday behavior. So this is a very interesting concept. So I think Martin Lindstrom is a very famous neuromarketing expert, and he calls such the pandemic a negative somatic marker. So essentially, a psychological process that controls your decision making and emotional bookmarks so powerful that you'll never forget it. So you can, but I think what we are looking at this, the impact of the pandemic in disrupting industries, changing consumer behavior has been quite immense. And as you really, as marketers and retail businesses really think about the future, please consider that as how exactly your consumer behavior really has changed. So what to expect? I'll just quickly sort of take you through that. And these are all of our predictions, let us say. And predictions in the unpredictable season can be fairly unpredictable. We believe that shopping, as again Bob mentioned that, yes, I mean, I had mentioned to Bob that based on our research, we believe the shopping can start as early as October 5 or 6, just because people are expecting, they're habituated to getting those delayed deliveries. So I think the last minute shopping purchases would probably, as a percentage online, at least be lower. The retailers will increase their digital marketing spends quite substantially across channels, because I think very clearly the 50 to 80 billion dollars is a lot of incremental revenue which is coming in. So everyone would try to sort of vie for getting a share of the pie. Unpredictable demand spikes will lead to supply chain challenges. I think today we have a fantastic speaker, Matthew Guffey from UPS, who will be sharing some of the strategies which UPS would advise to the retail businesses. But it's very important to match the demand and supply sides of business. Very, very important. The omni-channel retailers, again, it has been discussed by or touched upon by Bob, that the curbside delivery, the buy online, pick up in store, all these options would be very important. We firmly believe that creative curbside delivery options may emerge as well. A great example is Sam's Club concierge service for seniors. Very, very impressive. I would highly recommend you go ahead and just sort of check it out. It's very powerful. Local business delivery service is a possible option. There are a lot of local businesses who are looking for a solution, and we have already seen the impact that things like, let us say, Instacart, etc., has had. So what about an Instacart which really connects the local businesses? We also believe that a longer holiday season, coupled with a shift of retail sales from in-store to online, may lead to new and unique purchase patterns. Is there a possibility that Cyber 5 actually becomes Cyber 10? Who knows? Last minute purchases are likely to decrease. Normally, last minute purchases accounted for about 12 to 15% of the entire holiday season sales. When I say last minute, I'm talking about any purchases made after the 15th of December. So that percentage may actually come down, at least online. A higher number of purchases may happen through the entire season. So frequency of purchases and the number of purchases may actually sort of go up quite substantially. One of the interesting things about Prime Day, we have already seen Prime Day being postponed a couple of times by Amazon. The fundamental question, now they're saying around the first week of October, but there is a possibility based on the demand and surge, as I mentioned again, 50 to 80 billion dollars is a tremendous spike. There may be an outside possibility that Amazon may not even decide to do Prime Day this year, but this is just an outside possibility. So some of the attributes that retailers really need to possess for the holidays, the first one is flexibility. I mean, you really need to have a plan B and a plan C, because these are just predictions, as I mentioned, and predictions during an unpredictable season like this probably are at best unpredictable. The second part is you have to have nimbleness. You really need to really be able to operate and execute very quickly. That's a critical component. And the third part, very important, is always on. Normally, I think what we have seen even in digital marketing, typically during Cyber 5, the retailers probably are not really able to spend as much time in terms of managing the campaigns. But at this point in time, in a holiday season like this, you really need to build an always-on capability, something which really ensures that your money is safeguarded and your investment is protected across the 24/7 hours almost. Because vigilance and agility are almost like essential, almost like a must-have attribute during this time. I mean, it's not really an option. So that's what I have in terms of this thing. Very quickly touch upon as to how Netlexer can help. We are privileged to really work with a wide range of customers who have joined us today. Again, thanks to all of you who were able to join us today. There are other companies who probably are not working with us today at this point in time. We would really love to have you sign up for our holiday consultation so that you get a flavor of as to what Netlexer plus Google plus Microsoft can bring to the table. But how we can help, I think, our key differentiator has been the fail-safe operating model. So we operate 24/7. We have built those processes over the last 16 years. And the advantage is it really has helped us get over 500 retailers 3 times more than the industry average during the holiday season. It's a fairly proven success track record since 2005. And we'll be more than happy to have conversations with any one of you who may be interested in knowing more about our services. This part I'll not really delve on too much. I would definitely urge anyone who is interested to sign up for this digital marketing holiday blueprint. But with that, let me stop sharing, and I don't know as to how much time we have for questions, but happy to answer any questions that we may have, Marv, at this point in time.
Can you hear me okay, Dave?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, awesome. I'm hoping everyone can see me and hear me okay as well. So we do have a couple questions, Udain, but just to go back and echo some of the points that you highlighted, I know Google also mentioned the same area in terms of their 41% of retailers are seeing new visitors, and Microsoft saw the same with their 33% increase in traffic as well. And you also mentioned the 7.4 million in new retailers in 2020. So we're definitely seeing the same trend go a long way this holiday season. And then also just highlighting some of the impacts that Amazon is going to be having potentially for the holiday season if all goes as planned there. But so appreciate the insights there. And just so we have a couple questions, I know just in sake of time. So question one, you spoke about the importance of an always-on management of digital marketing campaigns. It is a massive commitment in terms of resources, investments, and everything along those lines. Can you share with the folks joining some of the business impact examples that justify this investment? And then the second part of that is what happens if we do not have a 24/7 management system in place?
Wow, that's a long question. So it's a difficult one because those processes don't really get built overnight, first of all. So there is obviously a substantial investment which is required 24/7. But I'll give you probably a couple of examples, more of an anecdotal example rather than in this thing. The first example which comes to my mind effectively is this think about the demand and supply match, right? For example, in many cases, I think we have seen, at least over the last few months, that the product going out of stock and the advertising still running. So that itself can really cost you a significant amount of money, specifically when you know that advertisers probably are going to increase their budgets by anywhere between 50 to 30 to 150%, right? So let us say if you're spending maybe in paid media, maybe about $1 million during holiday season, if you can just calculate what is the cost of not really having someone who's supervising and monitoring that, and you're continuing to advertise for, let us say, out of stock products and so on. So that may be one of the examples, Mark. But there are multiple other examples which are there as well. We believe that because of the new and different and unique consumer behavior, there is a very minimal predictability as to when will the consumers shop and when will they search. And the shopping time may be completely different from what was last year or the previous years, right? But if you do not really have someone who is live managing the account at that time, you may sort of probably miss out the entire swing. At that point, the entire spike can be missed out. So I think those are the two examples I think which sort of comes to my mind. Yeah.
Appreciate it. For the sake of time, I know we had a couple other questions, but we would definitely personally reach out to and answer those. I know we have our new session coming up with our panelists, who is going to be joining us today. So Udain, thank you again for taking the time to speak with us. So I'll pause. I'll kick it back over to our team. We might have a quick announcement for everybody, but then we're going to kick off with our session on the panelists as well.